One night together, now she can't stay away. The alien woman's forbidden lust * the encounter submersible descended through violet water, and Dr. Elena Voss felt her breath catch. 6 weeks on the Sarah, and the moon's beauty still amazed her. Crystalline formations pulsed with internal light below the famous twilight reef. Her reason for traveling 8 months from Earth. Just a few more samples, she murmured, guiding the craft lower. Then I can justify another month here. The current hit without warning. It yanked her sideways, spinning the submersible through a narrow canyon. Elena's hands flew across the controls, fighting for stability. But the Sarah's twin moons created tidal forces she was still learning. Warning lights blazed. The craft scraped against singing crystal, then hands on the viewport. Pearl-white skin covered in shifting, iridescent patterns. Strong grip redirecting her trajectory. The current released her into still water. Elena stared through the glass at her rescuer, and her scientific mind went blank. He was beautiful, humanoid but clearly alien, with luminescent skin that held patterns like living art. Large dark eyes watched her with concern, and when his mouth moved, sounds like water over stone reached her external speakers. "Thank you," Elena breathed, knowing he couldn't understand. He gestured for her to follow, leading her through a hidden passage to a grotto she'd never have found alone. A pocket of air existed beneath a crystal dome, the walls glowing soft blue. Elena surfaced, removing her mask. The air was warm, breathable. "Hello." He emerged beside her, water streaming from his skin. Up close, she could see every detail, the intricate patterns concentrating on his shoulders and chest, the graceful lines of his build, the unmistakable intelligence in his eyes. She pointed to herself. "Elena." He touched his own chest, leaving a brief glow, and produced a complex, musical sound. Elena tried to repeat it and failed completely. His liquid laughter filled the grotto, patterns brightening across his skin with clear amusement. She laughed too, tension finally breaking. "Okay, I need something simpler. Kairos." He repeated it perfectly, then smiled, or close enough that her human brain recognized it. Hours vanished like minutes. Kairos showed her wonders, organisms that sang when touched in sequence, pools holding captured light like memories, crystal walls that vibrated with the moon's heartbeat. Every discovery involved his hands guiding hers, contact lasting longer than necessary. Elena sketched Earth in the sand, a blue sphere with rough continents. His fascination was immediate, tracing the shapes with wonder, as if truly understanding how far she'd traveled. As the Sarah's sun set, the temperature dropped. Elena shivered despite her suit's heating. Kairos noticed instantly, wrapping an arm around her shoulders and pulling her against his side. His body radiated warmth that seeped through her thin underlayer. She should pull away. Didn't. They settled beside a bioluminescent pool, reflections shimmering below. Elena studied his profile, the elegant jaw, the graceful neck, those mesmerizing patterns. When she looked up, he was watching her with the same intensity. The moment stretched, heavy with possibility. Elena leaned forward, closing the distance between them. His lips were softer than expected, tasting of salt and something faintly sweet. He went still for a heartbeat, then kissed her back, his hand cupping her face with impossible gentleness. The patterns on his skin brightened everywhere she touched, constellations across his shoulders, down his arms. Elena traced them, marveling at the warmth, the silk over muscle texture, the way they responded to her like living light. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kairos spoke softly. Though Elena didn't understand the words, she understood the meaning in his tone, his glowing patterns. His eyes, "I feel it too." She leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat faster than human but steady. The grotto's lights pulsed around them like a second heartbeat. Neither noticed the shadow passing the entrance, observing before disappearing. Neither saw the distant patterns flashing in the water signals, spreading news of this forbidden meeting. Elena's communicator crackled. Marcus's worried voice. "Elena, you've been stationary for 3 hours. Are you okay?" Reality crashed back. "I'm fine. Got caught in a current, found shelter. Heading back now." She looked at Kairos, trying to memorize everything, the blue light on his skin, the concern in his eyes, the warmth where they'd touched. "I have to go," she said, regretting every word. He understood. His patterns shifted to something melancholy, but he nodded, helping her prepare to leave. At the grotto's exit, underwater with her mask in place, Elena turned back. Kairos floated in the entrance, his patterns creating a lighthouse glow. She pressed her hand to her heart. He mirrored the gesture, his patterns brightening. Then Elena activated her propulsion and headed toward her submersible, leaving the impossible promise behind. But she knew she'd return. Tomorrow, or the next day, she'd find an excuse to dive near the twilight reef, because some connections were too powerful to resist. Kairos had become the most significant discovery of her career, even if she could never tell anyone about him. Even if this was destined to remain a secret stolen from alien depths, for now, it was enough that it existed at all. The Returnalina told herself it was about research. The grotto's unique ecosystem deserved documentation. The bioluminescent organisms required further study. Her submersible's navigation system needed recalibration after the incident with the current. All lies. She returned because she couldn't stop thinking about Kairos, the way his skin had brightened under her touch, the sound of his laughter like water over stones, the lingering warmth of that kiss. Marcus noticed immediately. "You're going out again. Elena, you filed 3 reports yesterday. The data needs analysis, not more collection. Just one more dive," she said, checking her equipment with unnecessary thoroughness. "I want to verify the tidal patterns around the twilight reef." Her research partner's dark eyes narrowed behind his glasses. "The patterns we've already mapped. The Sara's moons are in a different phase. The gravitational variables, right?" Marcus didn't sound convinced. "Be careful out there." The journey to the grotto felt longer this time, anticipation making every minute stretch. What if he wasn't there? What if yesterday had been chance, curiosity, nothing more? But when she entered the hidden sanctuary, removing her mask in the pocket of air, Kairos was waiting. The patterns on his skin brightened the moment he saw her, cascading from his chest outward like sunrise breaking across water. This time, there was no hesitation. He pulled her close, his mouth finding hers with an urgency that matched her own. Elena's hands mapped the planes of his back, feeling the way his skin responded to her touch, glowing brighter where her fingers traced. His own hands explored with careful curiosity the strange texture of her hair, the different warmth of her skin, the rapid flutter of her pulse at her throat. They broke apart only when breathing became necessary. Foreheads pressed together, sharing air. Over the following weeks, Elena developed a routine of careful deception. Morning analysis with Marcus, afternoon equipment maintenance, evening research dives that lasted until her air supply forced her return. Kairos taught her about his world through experience. He guided her through crystal caves where the walls sang in response to movement, creating symphonies from their passage. He brought her fruits from the deep gardens, strange, luminous things that burst with flavors she had no words for. He showed her how to read the Sara's twin tides by the angle of light through water, a skill his people learned as children. In return, Elena tried to share her world. She drew pictures of Earth and the sand mountains, forests, cities. His fascination was evident, though she suspected he couldn't truly comprehend a world with so little water. She taught him words: star, ocean, heart. His pronunciation was stilted, his vocal structure not designed for human language. But he tried. Their communication evolved into something beyond words. A touch on the shoulder meant "come see this." A particular tilt of the head asked, "Are you well?" The way his patterns flowed toward her conveyed affection more clearly than any phrase. Their physical intimacy deepened with each meeting. In the grotto's privacy, they explored the boundaries between their species with gentle curiosity. Elena learned that his skin was most sensitive along his sides, that certain touches made those liquid sounds of pleasure catch in his throat. He discovered that human ears were remarkably responsive. That kisses placed along her collarbone made her gasp his name. One evening, as they lay intertwined by the luminous pool, Elena traced the patterns on his chest currently flowing in slow, content waves. "This is dangerous," she whispered, though whether to him or herself, she wasn't certain. Kairos responded in his own language, the words meaningless, but the tone clear. He knew. He sat up, his expression growing serious. With careful gestures, he began drawing in the sand. A circle of figures, his people, she understood. He drew himself among them, then crossed out the image. Next, he drew two figures together clearly meant to be them and surrounded the image with harsh, jagged lines. Elena's chest tightened. Your people don't approve of outsiders. He nodded slowly, then drew something else. A deep trench, figures being pushed into darkness. His hands moved in a gesture that needed no translation. Death, exile, endings. They'd punish you for seeing me? Elena's voice cracked. Kairos, we should stop. I won't let you risk. He pressed a finger gently to her lips, shaking his head. Then he took her hand and placed it over his heart, that rapid, alien rhythm pulsing against her palm. His other hand rose to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheek. His meaning was unmistakable, worth it. Elena kissed him then, desperate and fierce, trying to pour all her fear and longing and impossible hope into that connection. His arms wrapped around her, holding her close as the grotto's lights pulsed around them like a heartbeat. Neither noticed the shadow that passed across the grotto's entrance, watching for a long moment before disappearing into the depths. The next morning, Marcus confronted her at breakfast. You're involved with someone. Elena's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. What? Don't. He held up a hand. I've known you for 6 years. You're terrible at hiding when you're happy, and you're glowing lately, figuratively speaking. He paused. Please tell me it's not one of the Thesarans. Her silence was answer enough. Elena, my God. Do you have any idea the cultural protocols alone? I know the risks, do you? Marcus leaned forward, his voice urgent. The Thesaran Council enforces strict isolation laws. It's not just cultural preference. It's survival policy. They've seen what happens when outsiders interfere with indigenous populations. The last researchers who got too close were banned from the entire system. This is different, is it? His expression softened slightly. I'm not judging the connection, but you're playing with fire. Both of you. Elena stared into her coffee, watching her reflection ripple on its surface. I can't just stop seeing him, Marcus. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to be careful, and to think about what happens when our research grant ends and you have to leave the Sara. That thought had haunted her for weeks now. 3 months left on their assignment. 90 days until she'd have to board a transport and leave this moon, this man. This impossible connection. I don't know, she admitted quietly. I don't know what happens then. Discovery. Elena should have realized they were being watched. The signs were obvious in retrospect: the unusual stillness in the waters near the grotto, the way certain Thesarans at the surface station watched her with knowing expressions, the strange marks she sometimes found in the sand that weren't there when she'd arrived. She'd been too wrapped up in Kairos to notice, too lost in the way his patterns danced when she entered the grotto, too distracted by stolen hours learning the language of his body, too consumed by the knowledge that their time was running out. The confrontation came on a dive she'd planned to spend mapping the outer reef system's actual research. For once, she'd promised Marcus she'd be professional today, that she'd focus on work instead of detours to hidden sanctuaries. But as her submersible passed the familiar canyon, she saw him, Kairos, waiting at their usual meeting point, his patterns showing agitation, worry. Elena changed course without thinking. She found him pacing the grotto's edge, his movements sharp and anxious. The moment she removed her mask, he was beside her, hands on her shoulders, words tumbling out in his liquid language. She caught the urgency even without understanding. Slow down, she said, cupping his face. Show me, draw it. He pulled her to the sand, sketching rapidly. The same images as before the council, the circle of his people, but now with new additions. Eyes everywhere, watching. Lines connecting those eyes to the two figures that represented them. And something new, a gathering. Many figures, harsh angular marks surrounding them. A trial. They know about us, Elena breathed. When? Kairos held up fingers, his way of indicating time. 3 days, maybe for. Her heart hammered. What will they do to you? His answer was the same as before. The deep trench, exile, darkness. No. Elena gripped his arms. I'll leave. I'll tell them you were just helping a lost researcher. That nothing happened. He shook his head violently, pulling her close. His forehead pressed against hers, and she felt moisture on his face. Tears, she realized. The Sarans could cry, their tears luminous like everything else about them. They held each other as the grotto's lights pulsed around them. both knowing their sanctuary had been compromised, both refusing to let go. That night, Eleanor returned to the surface station in a daze. Marcus took one look at her face and poured her a drink. "They found out," he said. "Not a question. His people know. There's going to be some kind of council meeting." Eleanor's hands shook around the glass. "Marcus, they'll exile him. Send him to the deep trenches where the pressure. It's a death sentence. What are you going to do?" "I don't know." She looked at her research partner, desperation creeping into her voice. "That translation device you've been working on, the one for the Saran language, is it functional?" Marcus hesitated. "Partially. It can handle basic phrases, simple concepts." "Why?" "Because I'm going to that council meeting, and I'm going to make them understand. Eleanor, outsiders aren't allowed. I don't care about allowed." She stood, a fierce determination replacing her earlier fear. "I'm not letting him face this alone." The next 2 days were a blur of preparation. Marcus worked round the clock on the translation device, programming it with every linguistic pattern they'd documented. Eleanor reviewed everything she knew about the Saran culture, looking for precedents, loopholes, anything that might help. She didn't go to the grotto. Couldn't risk making things worse for Kairos, but she felt his absence like a physical ache. On the 3rd day, Marcus handed her the completed device, a small unit that would process the Saran's speech and approximate translations through her earpiece, while translating her words into approximations of their language. "It's not perfect," he warned. "The nuances, the emotional context, a lot will be lost. It's better than nothing." The council convened in a natural amphitheater beneath the waves, a vast space where the water itself seemed to hold still out of respect. Eleanor descended in her suit, the translation device active, Marcus monitoring from the submersible above. The Sarans filled the space, hundreds of them, their collective patterns creating waves of light like aurora. At the center, elevated on a natural platform, sat the Council of Elders, and before them, isolated and dim, stood Kairos. Eleanor's rival caused immediate disruption. The waters churned with their agitation, patterns flashing in what she now recognized as surprise, anger, fear. One of the elders, the largest, his skin marked with age and wisdom, produced a sound that needed no translation, a command to leave. "I won't," Eleanor said, and the device translated her words into approximations that echoed through the water. "Not until you hear what I have to say." The translation was imperfect, but clear enough. Shocked silence followed. She swam forward until she faced the council directly, aware of hundreds of eyes upon her. "You're judging Kairos for connecting with me, for breaking your isolation laws." The device stuttered over some words, but conveyed her meaning. "I'm here to tell you, judge me instead. I sought him out. I kept returning. If anyone deserves punishment, it's me." Kairos made a sound of protest, trying to move toward her, but other the Sarans held him back. The elder who'd commanded her to leave spoke again. The device translated, "You understand not. Our laws protect us. Outsiders bring change. Change brings death. We have seen it." "I know your history," Eleanor responded. "I know what happened when the first survey ships came, how your reefs were damaged, how your people were displaced. But that's not what's happening here. Kairos showed me your world because I wanted to understand it, not exploit it. We connected as individuals, not as representatives of our species." Another elder, smaller and with patterns that suggested great age, spoke. "Connection is the danger. Attachment leads to influence. Influence disrupts balance, does it?" Eleanor's voice grew stronger, passion overriding her fear. "Or does it create bridges, understanding? Your people have remained isolated for generations, but isolation isn't safety, it's stagnation. Kairos taught me to see the Sara as you see it. In return, I showed him that not all outsiders come to take. Some come to appreciate, to wonder, to love." The word love came through the translator as something more complex, a combination of deep bond and soul recognition. "Close enough. I'm not asking you to change all your laws," Eleanor continued. "I'm asking you to see that what Kairos and I found isn't a threat. It's proof that connection across differences is possible, beautiful, worth preserving." She turned to face the gathered the Sarans, addressing them all. "I'll be leaving the Sara in a few months. My research period ends, and I'll return to my world across the stars. Whatever you decide about Kairos, I'll carry the memory of your moon with me forever. He gave me that gift. Don't punish him for showing me the beauty of your home." The council elders conversed among themselves in rapid patterns, too quick for the device to translate. The weight felt eternal. Finally, the large elder spoke. "You offer yourself in his place. Exile for outsider means nothing. Already you leave. Then don't exile anyone," Elena said. "Let him remain among you. I'll go quietly, never speak of what I found here, never return. Just don't take his home from him because of me." Kairos finally broke free from those restraining him, swimming to Elena's side. He spoke for the first time in her presence, his voice carrying through the amphitheater. The translator struggled with the complexity, but Elena caught fragments. "Choose this. No regret. She worth everything. Rather darkness than deny." His meaning was clear even through imperfect translation. He'd rather face exile than pretend their connection hadn't mattered. The council exchanged looks. The small, ancient elder spoke again. "Young one speaks from heart. Outsider speaks from heart. Perhaps we have forgotten. Not all contact brings destruction. Sometimes," the device paused, struggling, "brings light." A murmur rippled through the gathered Thesarans. Some patterns flashed agreement, others disagreement. The debate raged in colors and light. Elena reached for Kairos's hand, and he gripped hers tightly, his patterns pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. They waited together to learn their fate. The Choiceth Council's deliberation lasted hours. Elena and Kairos remained at the center of the amphitheater, hands clasped, while hundreds of Thesarans debated their fate in cascades of light and liquid sound. The translation device caught fragments, arguments about tradition, safety, the dangers of change, the stagnation of isolation. Marcus's voice crackled through Elena's earpiece, anxious. "Your oxygen levels are dropping. You need to surface soon." "Not yet," she murmured, too quiet for the translator to pick up. Finally, the large elder raised his hands, calling for silence. The waters stilled. His patterns shifted to something formal, ceremonial. "We have decided," the translator conveyed. "The old laws exist for reason, protection, survival. These laws we cannot break without risking all we have built." Elena's heart sank. Beside her, Kairos's patterns dimmed to near darkness. However, the elder continued, and hope flickered again. "We recognize something new. Young Kairos speaks truth. Not all connection brings harm. The outsider shows respect, understanding." He paused, his patterns shifting to something almost sad. "But laws are laws. We cannot change them for one, no matter the heart's truth." The smaller, ancient elder moved forward, her patterns weak but steady. When she spoke, the translation came through with unusual clarity, as if the device finally understood the weight of her words. "Kairos of the Twilight Reef, you have broken our most sacred law. You formed bond with outsider, shared our secrets, endangered our isolation." Kairos's grip on Elena's hand tightened, but his voice was steady as he responded. The translator offered, "I accept judgment, no regret. Would choose again. We know," the Ancient One said, and Elena heard sadness in those liquid tones even before translation. "That is why this decision brings pain. You must choose, young one. Remain with your people and sever this bond completely. Never see the outsider again. Accept traditional mate bonding within our kind. Or," she gestured toward the dark waters beyond the amphitheater, "accept exile to the deep trenches. Live there in darkness, alone." "No." Elena's shout echoed through the water. "You can't make him choose that. It's cruel. It is law," the large elder said firmly. "We offer more mercy than tradition demands. Usually, exile is immediate. We give choice." Elena turned to Kairos, seeing her own anguish reflected in his dark eyes. "Don't do it. Don't throw away your life, your home, your people for." He pressed a finger to her lips, the gesture achingly familiar. Then he spoke, and the translator stumbled over the complexity of his words. "You are not temporary thing. You are soul recognized, heart bond. Without you, already in darkness, already alone." Tears blurred her vision. "I have to leave in 3 months anyway. We don't have forever. Then I take 3 months," he said simply. 3 months of light worth lifetime of darkness. "Kairos." "No," the ancient elder interrupted. her patterns flashing with something unexpected approval, perhaps even admiration. The outsider offers to leave, to sacrifice her presence for your safety. You offer to sacrifice everything for brief time together. Both of you choose others' well-being over own. This is rare, even among our people. Such selfless bond is precious. She turned to address the full council, her voice carrying authority that silenced any murmurs. I propose alternative. The outsider has research permit for 3 more months, yes? Let her complete her work. Let Kairos continue his life among us, unpunished for now. But when outsider's time ends, she leaves the Sara forever, returns to her distant world. No contact, no return, no messages across stars. Complete severance. And if they violate this agreement? Another elder asked. Then both face consequences. Exile for Kairos, ban from entire system for outsider and her people's research vessels. The large elder's patterns showed consideration. 3 months to say farewell, then permanent separation. This seems balanced. Elena's chest ached. 3 months to love him, then lose him forever. Never know if he was safe, happy, alive. Never touch him again. Never see his patterns brighten at her rival. Never hear that liquid laugh. But 3 months was better than watching him exiled now. Better than knowing she'd destroyed his life. Before she could speak, Kairos did. Not enough. Every pattern in the amphitheater flashed surprise. Explain. The ancient elder commanded. Kairos's hand tightened around Elena's as he spoke, the translator working hard to convey his meaning. You ask complete severance. Forever darkness after brief light. I accept this, but request. Small mercy. Allow her return. Not to stay. Not to live among us. But to visit. Once each year of her world. Brief time. Few days only. So we know others still exists. Still remembers. The council erupted in flashing disagreement. The large elder's patterns showed anger. Impossible. This violates the entire purpose, does it? The Ancient One's voice cut through the chaos. Think, old friend. We fear outside influence changing us. But yearly visit changes nothing. Few days among millions. Drop of water in endless ocean. And her patterns shifted to something wistful. Love that endures across stars, across distance, across time. This is not threat. This is treasure. Proof that bonds can exist without destruction. It sets dangerous precedent, another elder argued. Or it sets new precedent, she countered. We have isolated ourselves so completely that we forget we came from stars long ago. Our ancestors also crossed vast darkness to find this home. Connection is part of existence. Perhaps we can allow smallest thread of it without unraveling all we have built. The debate raged for another hour. Elena's oxygen warnings grew insistent. Marcus's voice pleaded with her to surface. But she stayed, hand in Kairos's, barely breathing, hoping. Finally, the ancient elder raised her voice above the others. I call for decision. All in favor of compromise 3 months of unrestricted contact. Then permanent departure with allowance for brief yearly returns as honored researcher only. Patterns flashed through the gathered Thesarans. Elena couldn't count them, couldn't tell if they were winning or losing. All opposed, more flashes, but fewer. She thought, hoped. The compromise passes, the ancient elder announced. Barely, by smallest margin. But it passes. Elena's knees went weak. Only Kairos's supporting arm kept her upright. The large elder spoke formally. Elena Voss of Earth, you may complete your research period. 3 months from this day. You must leave the Sara and not return for 1 full rotation of your home world. After that time, you may return for no more than 5 days, as honored guest and researcher only. Any violation will result in permanent ban for all your people. He turned to Kairos. You may continue your life among us unpunished, but know this: you are watched now. Any action that threatens our isolation laws will not receive such mercy again. Do you both accept these terms? Yes, Elena said immediately. Yes, Kairos echoed. Then this matter is concluded. Leave us now, both of you. The gathered Thesarans parted, creating a path through their midst. Elena and Kairos swam through it together. Patterns of mixed emotions playing across Thesarans' skin, some disapproving, some curious, some unexpectedly warm. As they left the amphitheater, Elena finally had to surface. Her submersible waited above, Marcus's worried face visible through the viewport. But Kairos swam with her to the shallows, refusing to let go until the last possible moment. When she finally had to enter the airlock, he pressed his forehead to the glass, patterns pulsing a message she understood without translation. 3 months. Make them count. Inside the submersible, Marcus stared at her. What happened down there? We have 3 months, Elena said, laughing and crying simultaneously. 3 months together, and then I can come back. Once a year, just for a few days, but I can come back. That's— Marcus shook his head in disbelief. That's actually incredible. I didn't think they'd budge at all. Neither did I. Elena looked out the viewport where Kairos still floated, watching her ascent. We have 3 months to fit a lifetime of love into, and then we have to figure out how to survive on memories and 5 days a year. One problem at a time, Marcus said gently. For now, you have 90 days. Don't waste them. Elena smiled through her tears. I don't intend to. Tides of changeth. Next 3 months existed outside of time. Elena threw herself into research during the day's real, legitimate work that would justify her presence and honor the Council's trust. She cataloged reef systems, documented bioluminescent species, collected data that would benefit both human understanding and the Saran conservation. But the evenings belonged to them. Kairos took her to places even his own people rarely visited. Caves where the walls sang in harmonics that dated back millennia. Gardens in the deep where plants grew in impossible geometries, nourished by thermal vents that painted the water in gradients of warmth. A place he called the memory pool, where certain minerals captured and replayed light patterns from years past. They watched ancient Thesaran ceremonies play out like ghosts in the luminescence. They learned each other with an intensity born of knowing their time was finite. Elena discovered that Kairos was an artist, creating temporary sculptures from living crystal that dissolved after hours, meant to be experienced rather than preserved. He learned that she sang when she thought no one was listening, human melodies that sounded alien and beautiful in the grotto's acoustics. Their physical intimacy deepened into something transcendent. They learned to communicate desire and affection across the boundary of species, finding universal languages in touch, rhythm, breath. The way his patterns spiraled when she traced certain paths along his skin, the sound she made when he discovered that spot behind her ear, the synchronization of their breathing as they lay intertwined, his heartbeat rapid against her slower human pulse. They also talked haltingly, through the improving translation device and their own developing shorthand, about everything. Their childhoods on different worlds, their dreams, their fears. Kairos spoke of wanting to teach young Thesarans about the stars, to expand their understanding without threatening their safety. Elena confessed her terror of returning to Earth and finding everything she'd left there meaningless, compared to what she'd found here. You'll continue, Kairos told her one evening, his translated words awkward but sincere. You'll do great work. Teach others about my world. Keep us alive in your heart and your words. And you? Elena asked, tracing the patterns along his collarbone. What will you do when I'm gone? Swim the spaces we swam together. Remember, count days until you return. His hand covered hers. And find purpose in helping my people understand isolation as safety. Yes, but connection is life. You taught me this. As the deadline approached, Elena noticed changes. Young Thesarans began appearing at her submersible's usual landing site, watching her with open curiosity rather than suspicion. They left small gifts: woven water plants, polished shells, fragments of singing crystal. A few even approached Kairos when he met her, their patterns showing questions she couldn't decipher, but that made him smile. They ask about you. He explained. Want to know how you think, what you feel, why you stay when you could explore many worlds. I tell them, because love chooses place, not circumstance. Because some bonds matter more than exploration. Marcus reported similar changes at the surface station. The Thesaran liaison actually asked me about Earth yesterday. First time they've initiated conversation about our homeworld in 6 months of research. Something's shifting, Elena. On their second to last night together, Kairos took Elena to a gathering place she'd never seen, a vast open water forum, where young Thesarans congregated to share ideas, debate philosophy, practice art, Their arrival caused the expected disruption. Patterns flashing surprise and uncertainty. But then a young Thesaurus swam forward. Through the translator, Elena heard, "You are the outsider who loves Kairos?" "Yes," Elena said simply. "Tell us. Tell us why you choose to return each year. Why you not stay on your world. Find your own kind to love." Elena looked at Kairos, who gave her an encouraging nod. She addressed the gathered youth honestly, because love isn't about convenience or similarity. It's about finding someone who sees you completely and chooses you anyway. Kairos sees me human, alien, temporary, and loves me not despite these things, but including them. How could I not return to that? Another young Thesaurus spoke. "But you suffer. Year of separation for days of togetherness. This is painful mathematics." "Yes," Elena agreed. "It hurts. But the alternative, never knowing him, never loving him, would hurt more. Some pain is worth bearing for the right connection." The questions continued for hours. About Earth, about human culture, about the logistics of loving across such distance. And through it all, Elena watched the young Thesaurus' patterns shift from suspicious to curious to something approaching acceptance. When they finally left, Kairos's patterns showed an emotion the translator approximated as hope mixed with pride. "They want to understand," he told her. "Your presence, our bondit, makes them question automatic rejection of outside. Seeds are planted. Will grow slowly, but will grow." Their final night came too quickly. They returned to the grotto where it had all begun. The sight of their first meeting now weighted with memory and meaning. Neither spoke much. Words felt inadequate. Instead, they held each other in the luminous water, skin to skin, heartbeat to heartbeat, memorizing every sensation for the long separation ahead. 360 days, Elena whispered against his shoulder. "I'll count every one, as will I." His arms tightened around her. "And then 5 days together. Then another year. Then 5 more days. We will build life from these pieces. It's not enough." "No," he agreed. "But it is ours, and that makes it everything." They made love slowly, reverently, a farewell and a promise combined. His patterns created constellations across his skin, brightening with each touch, each kiss, each whispered word in languages the other barely understood, but felt completely. Afterward, as dawn approached and Elena's departure grew imminent, they lay wrapped around each other in the shallows. "I love you," Elena said, in both English and her best approximation of the Saran. "I will always love you." Kairos responded in kind, the translator offering, "You are soul bonded to me across all distance, forever current in my waters." When she finally had to leave, to return to the surface and board the transport that would carry her away from the Sara, Elena found something unexpected waiting at the launch site. The Sarans, dozens of them, including several of the young people from the gathering, even a few elders, including the ancient one who'd argued for compromise. They didn't speak, but their patterns created waves of color blues and greens that the translation device interpreted as safe journey, honored guest, and welcome return. Kairos stood among them, his patterns the brightest she'd ever seen them, a lighthouse guiding her home, promising to burn steady until her return. Marcus stood beside her at the transport's window as they lifted off. "You did something incredible here, you know. Not just the research, though, that's groundbreaking, but what you and Kairos showed them. That connection doesn't have to mean destruction." Elena watched the Sara recede, a jewel of violet water and bioluminescent reefs growing smaller against the black of space. Somewhere down there, Kairos was watching her leave, counting the days until her return. "It's not over," she said softly. "This is just the longest pause between visits. I'll be back. In 1 year, I'll come back. And every year after that, every year after that," Elena confirmed. "For as long as we both live. Distance doesn't end love. It just changes its shape." Marcus smiled. "Then I guess I should start planning next year's research expedition. We'll need a good excuse to return to the Sara." "We will," Elena agreed. "But Marcus, thank you for helping, for understanding, for not trying to stop this." "How could I stop something so clearly meant to be?" He handed her a small device. "I've been working on something, a communication system that might work across interstellar distances. The lag time will be months, maybe years, but it's better than silence." Elena stared at the device, hope blooming painful and bright in her chest. "You think it will work? I think love finds a way," Marcus said. "Even across impossible distances, even between impossible people. You and Kairos proved that." Elena clutched the device, already planning her message, already counting down. 360 days until she could hold him again. 12 months of memories to sustain her until 5 precious days in his arms. And after that, a lifetime of returns, brief, bittersweet, but undeniably theirs. The transport jumped to faster-than-light travel, and the Sara vanished from view. But Elena kept her eyes on the stars, knowing that somewhere behind them, Kairos was doing the same. Distance separated them. Time would test them, but the tide that pulled them together was stronger than either, ancient, inevitable, and eternal as the oceans themselves. Their love story wasn't ending. It was simply learning to breathe in the spaces between visits, sustained by promise and memory and the certain knowledge that no matter how many light years stretched between them, they had chosen each other, and they would keep choosing, year after year, 5 days at a time, for as long as the stars burned and the waters remembered. The end.